you stand by me? Oh, darling, darling, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Oh, darling, won't you stand by me? When the night has come and the land is dark and the moon is tumbling to the sea. No, I won't shed a tear. No, I won't cry. I won't shed a tear just as long as you stand by me. Well, darling, darling, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Oh, darling, won't you stand by me?
You want to test me?
Oh, darling, darling, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Oh, darling, won't you stand by me? Sing it with me. Oh, darling, darling, stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Oh, darling, won't you stand by me? Hi, everyone. Thank you. It don't mean a thing if it ain't got that swing. Do-up, 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 do-up. Don't mean a thing, all you got to do is sing. Do-up, 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 do-up. Makes no difference if it's sweet or hot. Just give that rhythm everything you got. But it don't mean a thing if it ain't got that swing. Do-up, 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 do-up. It don't mean a thing if it ain't got that swing. Do-up, 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 do-up. Don't mean a thing, all you got to do is sing. Do-up, 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 do-do-do-do-do-do-do-up. Makes no difference if it's sweet or hot. Just give that rhythm everything you got. Don't mean a thing if it ain't got that swing. Do-up, 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 do-up. Do-up, 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 do-up. Do-up, 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 do-up. Do-up, 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 do-do-do-do-do-up.
And please welcome to the Bema, Reverend Dr. Keith Cox.
And happy Holy Week, everyone. Microphones everywhere. It means we're hot, right? Really? No response on that one after all that? I had so many other jokes I could give you for Easter, and I didn't. Are we good now? Okay, good. Cool. So I am Keith Cox, Reverend Dr. Keith Cox, the spiritual leader here. Technically, that's my title, at the Center for Spiritual Living, Los Angeles. And welcome to everyone. Happy that you're here today. Is everyone having a good Easter so far? Good. And has everyone found your lost Easter eggs? I did. It was at Starbucks this morning, so it was filled with caffeine. So I'm happy to have you join us here in our beloved home at the Center for Spiritual Living, Los Angeles in West Hollywood. How many of you are here for the first time? I think in the back we have someone's family, right? So Guy Azulay's family is here joining us. I'm assuming from Israel, right? From Israel. So happy to have you guys here. And Guy's brother is like an offshoot of him. You're like a miniature guy. Not miniature, but you know what I mean, a mini guy. So good to see you. Thank you guys for being here. Maybe there was more than caffeine in that egg. Okay, so... So we come together every Sunday morning to be in community as a metaphysical-based, new thought, spiritual environment. And what that means is that we celebrate and honor all facets of life, whether you're here with us in person or you're here live stream, or if you're on Facebook Live. We'd like to say hello to all of those that are joining us from out in the ethers of the internet world. The vision statement for our community is supporting individuals finding their personal self-empowerment through a spiritual awakening. So I invite you to hear that anew today on this day that we celebrate renewal and finding the divine within in a new way. Supporting individuals finding their personal self-empowerment through a spiritual awakening. So we do that here primarily by the teachings of the science of mind, which is a philosophy of faith and a way of life that was put together, if you will. It was organized by a wonderful metaphysician and a New Thought teacher named Ernest Holmes. And he took the great teachings of religious teachings and spiritual teachings of the world in the late 19th century, actually, and then put those in a very formulated way into what he calls the science of mind. Ultimately, it was a book that was published in 1926, and it's also known as religious science, the actual practice of the science of mind. And here's what he says in regards to this teaching that we use here. Religious science is a synthesis of the laws of science, the opinions of philosophy, and revelations of religion, which are then applied to the human needs and the aspirations of humankind. What that speaks to is that when you and I have aspirations to step into our greatness as human beings, the way to do that is to use the qualities of the divine that exist within us, which you'll hear more about in just a moment, but our peace, power, beauty, joy, light, life, love, and wisdom. And as we do that using the laws of science, in other words, the scientific laws that bring forth into our experience a reflection of what's going on in our consciousness, then indeed we have the opportunity to manifest in our world our aspirations. So for me, that's something that I loved when I came into this teaching, and I'm sure and assuming that's true for you as well, correct? Yeah. Good. So today we're going to get to take a look at that in the context of just not only how do we do that, but in the context of looking at the life of Jesus, as well as looking at what has been transpired this past weekend by means of Passover. And so we open our service every Sunday morning with a ritual, and our ritual takes us into that state of mind where we open ourselves up to that divine that exists within us. And so it's an opportunity for us to hear information anew. It's an opportunity for us to participate in that through song, a call and response, and ultimately end up in what we call affirmative prayer or spiritual mind treatment. So I'd like to invite to the Bema our practitioner of the day, our assistant minister here, the one, the only, the both famous and infamous Reverend Edward Brown. Our illuminator of the day is Wendy Waris, longtime member and certainly cherished individual here at our community. And our musicians will take us through that, so I welcome you.
morning. My name is Edward Brown, and I am a practitioner here at the Center for Spiritual Living. And I would like to wish everybody here a happy Easter, happy Resurrection Day, happy Passover time. The ritual we performed this morning is called Calling in the Light. Today, we perform this ceremony to promote the universal consciousness of life, which is acknowledged by all people, all faiths, all sentient beings, and knowing that we come from the one great universal presence, which we call spirit. The purpose of this ritual is to draw into our gathering this morning a conscious awareness of our oneness and the qualities we possess as complete expressions of the divine. As Wendy lights the first candle, it is representing the power of peace. In this way, we honor our inherent divine state of inner calm, regardless of any chaos that is happening around us or within us. The second candle is illuminated for power. The power we acknowledge is the energy which makes everything live. The third candle is lit for beauty, a personal expression in which high spiritual qualities are made manifest. The fourth candle is lit for the quality of joy, that inner state that is emotionally excited by the expectance of good. As Wendy lights the fifth candle, which represents light, we acknowledge that that symbol is universal intelligence, the light within each and every one of us. The sixth candle is lit for the quality of all life, that which is defined as the animating principle of being, that inner something that makes everything live. The seventh candle is lit for the quality of love, as the self-givingness of spirit through the desire of life to express itself. The eighth candle is lit for the candle of wisdom. May we each live from a place of allowing our inner wisdom to guide us into our thoughts, our behaviors, our actions, our reactions, and our interactions with life. The ninth candle, which is called the healing candle, as Wendy lights the healing candle, we ask you to take a moment of silence, and bring into your consciousness, into your silence, any person, any situation that you think needs a healing. For this is the light, the healing flame of light.
I am love.
I am love.
I am peace.
I am peace.
In my heart,
In my heart,
I am free.
I am free.
I am spirit.
I am spirit.
I am soul.
I am soul.
All together,
All together,
we are whole.
calling in the light, calling in the light, calling in the light
Of love,
of love, calling in the light, calling
so it is.
I would like for you to join with me in a spiritual mind treatment of knowing the truth about who and what we are. In this moment, I know that God is all in all, expressing as the allness of life. God is you, God is me. God is the wind, the rain, the sleet, the snow. For God is all. And at this moment, I know we are each individualizations of the one. We express because of the knowledge of knowing who and what we are. We now speak our word for this center, for this truth, for this idea to understand this truth, and to know that we are where we are at by right of our own consciousness. Consciousness is all about us. Today, Easter Sunday, Resurrection Sunday, Passover. This is a time for renewal, and we renew everything that we thought was old, bringing into our life the fullness of life, the fullness of joy, the fullness of peace, beauty, wisdom, and all the qualities of God. We give thanks for this center. We give thanks for this place to come every Sunday and to worship. We give thanks for our minister, knowing that it is his consciousness that has attracted us here. And we are here by the right of consciousness. We give thanks for the staff ministers, for the practitioners, for the musicians, knowing that they are sharing their truth, their talent through music. We give thanks for the setup people, for every person that made this idea a reality today. For we know every person that entered these doors this day is part of the whole. And we give thanks for that idea. We joyously let go of this treatment, knowing it is done. It is done this moment. And together we say, and so it is.
Thank you so much, Edward and Wendy. My beautiful brother, I'm so happy to have you back. Aren't we happy to have him back in our steed? As he is healing himself to get ready to dance a jig again. So I didn't introduce our musicians to you a moment ago with reason, because I'm going to do that now. So our guest artist today is Leah Zeger, which many of you have met before. We're so happy to have her back with us. On percussion, we have Azulay, Pete Orlanski on bass, and our co-music director, Andy Belling. And they have a very special gift for us today, not only because it's Easter and because we're celebrating Passover, but it's just a gift that they wanted to give to you that has visual effects with it along with the music. But I would like for us to take it and use it as an opportunity to not just acknowledge the life of Christ in the story of the resurrection, which speaks to that light that exists within all of us. But as you're going to see on the screen, there will be several different photos of Leah's newborn child, Ezra, with her, to give you the opportunity to connect with not only the light in the life of Ezra that physically came through the womb of our beloved Leah, right, which represents That wasn't the joke. Get ready. No. In all seriousness, I am inviting you to look at this beloved child on the screen as the child with possibility in life, which exists not just in Ezra, but existed in Jesus. In our teaching, Jesus was not the exception, he was the example. And that exists within you and within me and within all life itself. I'd like for us to know that those possibilities of fulfillment of our dreams and our desires and the miracles that's taught by the story of Jesus is not bound by geography, it's not bound by religion, it's not bound by belief in the context that we all have the possibility within us. It's not bound by socioeconomic times, it's not bound by our political views, and it's certainly not bound by chronology. And so as we look today at these beautiful pictures of Ezra and his mom, and you see not only this child, and you see the possibilities that exist within it all, I'd like for us to each consciously bring up in mind an individual that lost their life in Sri Lanka this morning. Unfortunately, it seems to be the norm in our world today, these horrific events that take place. But as one of my teachers used to say to me, that every human that you look at is the son or daughter of someone. And so that parent that their son or daughter lost their life today, or the son or daughter that caused the harm that took place today, that parent's heart is breaking somewhere. And so let's see possibility and light and peace and power and beauty and joy and life and wisdom, not only in Ezra, as we get to see that this morning, but in each and every expression of humanity.
You are so beautiful to me. You are so beautiful to me. Can't you see? You're everything I hoped for, everything I need. You are so beautiful to me. You are so beautiful to me. You are so beautiful to me. Can't you see? You're everything I hope for, everything I need. You are so beautiful to me. You are so beautiful, oh, to me.
Azulay, Pete Orlanski, and Ezra. Thank you to Travis, who is upstairs, who set that up for us so that we can have it on the screen. So a big round of applause again for that. Gives a whole new meaning to Easter, right? By seeing that. And so as stated earlier, we are not a traditional Christian church here. I'm sure that comes as a surprise to maybe 4 of you. But we don't practice Christianity in the context of traditional Christianity. And yet, the book, The Science of Mind, that was written by Dr. Ernest Holmes, throughout it has a great slant towards a modern approach to Christianity. And so my message for all of us today is going to be a bit more modern than even what Ernest would be. I'm sure that comes as a little bit of a surprise to you. But well, I'm just going to dive into it. So I'm going to start with a reading today, and it's a reading that many of you have heard before. I've used it a lot, but I think it's most pertinent in the context of the message today regarding Easter, and certainly in the context of what has transpired in our world today, given all the way up until this morning, as well as how we choose to show up in life. I invite you to hear this reading anew as if you had died. Not in the physical sense, if you will, but that you had died in regards to all aspects of your mind, and your old ideas and your old beliefs have now died, and you've chosen to let this new you rise up, this new you of receptivity in mind rising up that has now arisen, ready to live anew, because the truth is we have the ability to live anew with every thought, every breath, every action, every interaction in life. And here's the reading. And it's titled Our Deepest Fear, and it's written by Marianne Williamson, even though it's mostly credited to Nelson Mandela, but he actually read what she had written. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we're powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We're all meant to shine as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. And it's not just in some of us, it's in every one of us. And as we let our light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we're liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. The liberation from fear really is what the Christians are celebrating today around the world. And that's what I'd like for us to look at today, is a liberation from fear, as the Barefoot Contessa says, with a little twist though. And I want us to look at not only just liberation from fear, but once we release ourselves from any fear that we have imposed upon ourselves, to then move into faith. Many of you as students in my classes, I've taken you through a small portion of the process that's called From Fear to Faith. It's an actual physical exercise of replicating, in essence, really the crucifix being on the cross. And it's about making affirmations and stating out loud, God is all there is. I am one with that God. I use my power to manifest the glory of God. I just kind of made those words up on the spot, but it's the essence of that. But as you do that 70 times in a row, and you do that 7 times in 70 times 7 days in a row, and then continue that. The purpose of that is not so that you align yourself with some religious belief that is proclamated in some book that is bound and pressed in gold and written. It's so that you engage in using your mind in a way to shift your belief pattern, so that you then develop a deep-rooted consciousness of knowing that you already are the divine completely and wholly and perfectly as you are, that it's within every single one of us. And it's through those actions, literally, of the physical piece and the affirmation piece to then create a shift, ultimately bringing forth into your field of experience that which is reflective of the work that you did in the 70 times 7. But what we're talking about, or I'm speaking of today, is not moving from fear to faith as faith in God, because if you're looking at a faith in God, we might as well hang on to the old anthropomorphic God or deity of a man in a chair in the sky. But as Ernest Holmes, the author of the book The Science of Mind, writes, is the faith of God. Now, that's a big idea. Even for me, when I stepped into this teaching, it was like, the faith of God, what the heck does that mean? Well, what that means, if you really break it down and understand it, is that you have a consciousness that is so in alignment with your divine nature that anything happening in your world, that could happen in your world, that would be in opposition to your divine nature of peace, power, beauty, joy, light, life, love, and wisdom, is almost impossible. And yet you know that if it does show up, it's a result not of something happening to you, but the way that you've used your mind and then realign your thinking to reflect your divinity, which is, I am that I am that I am that I am the Christ. Not the dude, but the concept, the principle, right? And from being the Christ, then I know and I know that I know that I know that I know there is only one power, that is God. That power is deeply within me. And so therefore I use my mind, my heart, my soul, and a being to align with it, and I let it show up in my world. There is only one power. Get it? That's how one develops, as Marianne Williamson says, the spiritual musculature to live the faith of God. But to do that, we got to know deep within us that it's in every one of us. Every one of us. No exception. No matter how they've used it. No matter how mean or degradation they have been, no matter if they've used it to blow bombs up places, no matter if they've murdered someone, it's in every one of us. But what comes with that is free will. That's where people then go to express their individuality in a way that seems to not reflect the divinity that's within them, but they may not know that it's in every one of us. But that doesn't change the spiritual truth that it is. So how do we live from this place of the faith of God? Well, it's important for us to know to live this way, we must be unencumbered or enslaved by fear to let our light shine. And my light and your light and your light and your light is going to shine differently, even though it's the same light. But so often what we think we should do is we should all be shining the light the same way. But we can't do that. Why? Because as Ernest Holmes writes, spirit, the very essence of that power that we're all each imbued with, has placed the stamp of individuality upon itself and called it you. Called it you. So what that means is the very essence that makes you an individualized expression of the very thing that exists within every one of us manifests itself through us in form differently. Now we all know that to be true, right? Look around the room. There's no replication. Maybe close to that with Guy's younger brother, but no replication, right? We're all individualized. Now, I love that song of It's in Every One of Us, and here are the lyrics to that. It's in every one of us to be wise, to find your heart, to open both your eyes. We can all know everything without ever knowing why. It's in every one of us by and by. It's in every one of us to be wise, to find your heart, to open your eyes. What it's telling us here is that as we allow the wisdom of the divine that exists within us already, allow that to rise up within us and find our heart, the heart being the symbol of love, meaning that as we choose to live from love, not human love necessarily, that yes, but in addition to that, the ancient Greco type of love called agape love, right? Or as Ernest Holmes refers to it as, is the self-givingness of spirit whose desire is to create more of itself out of itself, and the only way it can do that is through you and through me. What it's saying is that as we choose to allow that divine nature within us to rise up, not only see it beyond us, but to know it exists within all, and then as the Hindus, they say, then embrace that through the way of namaste. So not only just know that the God in me honors and acknowledges the God in you, I see it in Pete, I know it's there, my heart feels it, but then to step closer and to embrace it. To say either with my words or with my heart, right, or my energy field, I love you. Not meaning I want to take him out to the movies on a date, right? Meaning I love you, that the Christ in me honors the Christ in you. And then I see Pete receiving that because that place within him that is the Christ, it resonates with, and he knows that what I'm speaking about ain't about the movies, it's about the divinity. And then the goal is to turn around and not only to reciprocate it back, but then to give it to the next and the next and the next. That's how we then create this world that Marianne Williamson is speaking of, where we're not living from fear, but living from faith. It's by letting our light shine in whatever way, not just through our talents, but through our conscious engagement and enactment of our divinity, that then people are given permission to let their light shine. And ultimately what we do as we consciously do that together is we then create a world of magnificence where a ripple effect takes place and change takes place. But the challenge is that many of us are encumbered and enslaved to old ideology of fear that if I do that, it will not be reciprocated. But the truth is, it matters not whether it is reciprocated or not. The universe's nature doesn't give so that it may receive. The universe's nature is to give. The story of Jesus alone, Jesus didn't go in and flip the money changers there so that everybody gave him applause. He did it to invoke change. He did it to invoke change, knowing that it was going to create some kind of ruckus. Well, look at the ruckus that it ultimately created for him, right? Probably not a story that we want to have happen to us personally. However, what we need to know is that we actually have to go through if we desire to find our personal self-empowerment through a spiritual awakening, meaning that we have to let everything within us that is old or an attachment to fear literally be crucified so that it can then be buried, and then the 3 days must pass so that our divinity rises up within us. It's all symbolic, guys. You know, it's not literally, didn't literally happen. Maybe, but not so sure it did. But even if it did, that's not what we're looking at today. Today is our opportunity to look anew at how we use the symbolism of not just Easter, but even the Seder itself. If you step far enough back and look at Passover, the Seder, which is the celebration of the Passover, if you look at Easter, right, and the celebration of that, what it's really all about is really about moving from darkness to light. And not just in the literal sense of when the days get longer and the nights get shorter. Yes, that is an example for us. But moving from the place of the darkness within disappearing and the light becoming more prevalent. Well, for that to happen, you and I must choose to live from a place of mastery. My message is titled today, Mastery, Living the Highest You. And so I invite you today to ask yourself, what's being called forth from within you? What's being called forth from within you that you can not only let go of, but dive into from a place of mastery? Now, how many of you are thinking when I say live from a place of mastery, that you're thinking that I'm calling you to live from, metaphorically, a place of walking on water? You know what I mean by that? From a place that you must walk as the Christ all the time, right? You got to live the state of outward perfection. But that's not really what it's about. What it's about is walking, dancing your divinity with your humanity, engaging in the aspects of humanity while knowing that you're doing it from a place of your divinity, which then gives you the opportunity in mind for a quick set of forgiveness should you do what we as humans called screwing up. Anyone here ever done that? And then when you do it, you hang on to it for how long, right? 40 days and 40 nights. Well, that's about 39.75 too much, all right? So there's this great thing that was posted today about mastery, and I thought it would be important to share it with you in the context of this message, and it's this. Dear human, you've got it all wrong. You didn't come here to master unconditional love. That's where you came from and where you'll return. You came here to learn personal love, universal love, messy love, sweaty love, crazy. Now look how you guys didn't respond to that. Kind of freaked you out. I said sweaty love in a house of worship, didn't I? So I'm going to say it 2 more times just to make you think about it. You came here to learn personal love, universal love. Someone snorted. I like that. Messy love. Anyone in the room ever had messy love? Anybody want any more of it? Sweaty love? Any more of it? I'm talking about on the dance floor, all right? How about crazy love? Crazy, not like old school crazy, but crazy like Crazy in Love. Wasn't that a Beyonce song? Is it Beyonce? Yeah, all right. 2 weeks in a row, Beyonce. You might get 6 of them. Okay. Broken love. Anyone in the room afraid of broken love because it broke your heart so bad? You know, as a single man walking this planet, what I've realized is the only way to experience more love in my life is to step into love. And right now I'm going through something, I'll just leave it at that, where I want it to show up exactly the way that I want it to show up. Like, here's the way I had this outlined and I defined it and I wanted it to be. And as I've really been walking the walk of it, I'm like, well, from a spiritual perspective, it's actually showing up exactly how I designed and desired it to be. If I were to, and I had a teacher say to me, he's like, look at what you said you wanted here. I did. Well, checkbox, 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 check. Now, at the personal level, it's kind of funky, let me tell you, right? But what that speaks to is the only way we can stay engaged in the exchange of love itself is to be in love. And if we're living from a place of being fearful of experiencing love, or it may break our heart, we're never going to get to do that if we're not extending our heart to potentially be broken. But as we hear from the beginning of this, the heart itself can never be broken from the context of the heart being the symbol of love, and love is a self-givingness of spirit whose desire is to create more of itself out of itself. And the only way it can do that is through you and through me, which means that we got to step into that through you, through me part so that we can experience the very thing that could bring us glory or heartache. But neither one of those affect who we are as divine beings, because one of the qualities that is imbued within us as a divine being is love already. It cannot be taken away. It's who we are. That's what Jesus the Christos was teaching, ladies and gentlemen. It goes on here to say whole love is what we came here to experience, that which is infused with divinity. In other words, it's living our human love, engaging in our human love, that sweaty, that messy, that dancey, that broken stuff from our divinity. Amen. Amen. And that as we do that, demonstrating the beauty of our divine love in a human way, then what's going to show up sometimes is messing up. Often, it writes. And it says, you didn't come here to be perfect, for you already are. You came here to be gorgeously human, flawed, and fabulous, and then to rise again to remembering. What it's telling us here, and what I'm calling you to know on this Easter Sunday, this day of acknowledging the resurrection, is that that resurrection could have only taken place because everything leading up to it had to happen. The walking of the streets, the flipping of the money changers, the Judas turning him in and narking him out, the crucifixion piece, rotting on the cross, being put in the tomb, all of that had to happen for the resurrection to take place. Today, we're each being called to a resurrection of our divinity from within, and the only way that we can get to that is by letting everything prior to now die away. But to do that, we have to know that we're beings of freedom. We're beings of freedom. We're not enslaved by nature. We're not encumbered by nature, even though as humans, oftentimes it feels that way. Correct? It does. And even this morning as I was coming here, I'd sent a text out with some really off-color Jesus jokes to some of my friends about Easter. And I sent one to one of them, and he responded, he goes, "It's not a happy Easter because of what happened in Sri Lanka." And I immediately responded to him, and I go, we live in a world where we can have respect and empathy for what took place and be happy. They don't have to be one or the other. That's living from a place of resurrection, from knowing that the Christ, the divine within you, can honor the divine in others while still at a human level have empathy, have sympathy, have compassion for others. It's from choosing to come from that divine place, but not a hierarchical place, that we then can shift the experiences that we have in life to shifting the planet, if that is our objective. Real freedom is what we're talking about, and real freedom means that the human is created in the image and perfection and let alone and allowed to make the discovery for themselves of who they are. It's the freedom of will that means the ability to do, say, and think as one wishes. Jesus told us, "Ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free." And I got to tell you, I disagree with the dude a little bit. In the sense is that knowing it is not enough. It's not enough. Ernest Holmes tells us it's the understanding and the application of this truth that matters. Ernest tells us information without application is hallucination. He tells us it's that application piece that is critical. It's the using the infinite principle in life, that principle by tending to our minds and our thoughts and our beliefs, not only of what we desire to express, but by knowing who we are in our minds and our thoughts and our beliefs and our actions and our reactions and interactions in life, that the outer will change. Why is that? Because that principle itself is the emancipator. It's that spiritual principle that indeed sets us free. We think it's our mind. It's not our mind. It's how we use our mind that sets us free. And so today, on this day in Easter, I want to remind you that you are at choice. To not only know who you are, but to know of the Christ that exists within you. And that you're going to have challenges in life at all times. We all do. They show up. But you're made of stardust, ladies and gentlemen. You're not made of something that's not. You're part of the universe. It's been proven in the magazine, Smithsonian Magazine, it was said that 13.8 billion years ago, the universe began with a big bang. And the atoms it created would find their way into every single thing, from celestial stars to the human body. Now, I don't know about you, but to me it makes sense that if the very thing that exists in the stardust out there is in my human body and I'm one with that, then I must also be one with that very power that created it all. That power that really need not to be labeled or named, because the labels or the labels or the names don't really do it justice. But we have to do that so that we can understand it, so that we then can step into the spiritual awakening more and more and more and more of knowing who we are as the very thing itself that created that Big Bang 13.8 years ago. And then to use the very spiritual laws that bring forth into our field of experience more and more and more and more of that which we are, which is the very thing that created the very stardust that we are, that we're one with. But it's important for us to know that the journey of personal self-empowerment through a spiritual awakening may not always be easy. It may have challenges with it. Why? Because we're the humans that are diving into that messy, sweaty, broken love. It's the way it works. We have free wills. We're contemplative beings. What we think about shows up in the world, so we get to ask ourselves, what are we choosing to think about? Oprah Winfrey tells us in regards to these challenges, she goes, challenges are just gifts that force us to search for a new center of gravity. Don't fight them, just find a new way to stand. That new way today that I'm inviting you to know is to know that the very Christ that died on the cross exists within you and within me and is being called forth to face the challenges of life in a new way from our divinity, not our humanity. I want to close this morning with sharing with you a great little story about someone who was faced with a challenge. A man was driving along the highway when he saw the Easter rabbit hopping across the middle of the road. He swerved to avoid hitting the rabbit, but unfortunately the Easter bunny jumped in front of the car and was struck by it. The basket of eggs and candy and the rabbit was carrying went flying all over the place. The driver, being a sensitive man as well as an animal lover, pulled over to the side of the road to go out to see what had become of the rabbit carrying the basket. Much to his dismay, the colorful rabbit was dead. The driver felt awful, so he began to cry. A woman driving down the highway saw the man crying and pulled over. She stepped out of her car and asked the man what was wrong. Tears rolling down his cheeks, he said, "I feel terrible. I accidentally hit the Easter rabbit and killed it. Children all over the world will be disappointed. What should I do?" The woman comforted him and said, "Don't worry, I know what to do." She went to the trunk of her car, pulled out a spray can. She walked over to the dead, limp rabbit and sprayed the contents of the can onto this furry animal. Miraculously, the Easter rabbit came to life, jumped up, picked up the spilled eggs and candy, waved its paw at the two humans, and hopped down the road. About 100 feet away, the Easter rabbit stopped, turned around, waved, and hopped down the road again. And then another 100 feet away, turned, waved, and hopped another. And then it cycled, continued, and continued. The man was astonished. He couldn't figure out what substance this woman had sprayed on him. He ran over to her and said, "Lady, what is in your spray can? What could you have sprayed on the Easter bunny to bring it back to life?" She turned the can around and with great pride said, "Hairspray. It restores life to dead hair and adds permanent wave." Happy Easter. Thank you. All right, back to the Bema. We have our music team of Leah, Guy, Pete, and Andy. Isn't that funny?
Birds flying high, you know how I feel. Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. Breeze drifting by, you know how I feel. It's a new day, it's a new dawn, it's a new life for me. And I'm feeling good. Fish in the sea, you know how I feel. River running free, you know how I feel. Blossom on the tree, you know how I feel. It's a new day, it's a new dawn, it's a new life for me. And I'm feeling good. Oh, 'cause when you shine, you know how I feel. Sand of the pine, you know how I feel. Freedom is mine, you know how I feel. It's a new day, it's a new dawn, it's a new life for me, and I'm feeling good. Oh, I'm feeling good. Oh, I'm feeling good, and I'm feeling good. Thank you. Let's have a hand for Reverend Keith Cox, too. What a great message today of renewal.
Thank you, Leah.
Thank you. And Andy?
And the band. And the band.